All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Aja. I am an alcoholic and an addict,
Hi,
and
Asha.
grateful. Hi, I'm really grateful to be in recovery, and I've had found the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'll just start by saying that I'm like really nervous up here, and if this happens again or if I pass out, that's why. I don't have any like other medical issues that's going on. This is just such an honor. And sometimes I get beside myself in my fear of like messing things up. And like speaking engagements like this is one of them. I'll start with my statistics. As mentioned, I have two flavors of this disease, alcoholism and addiction. My sober date from all drugs is April 13th of this year. And the only reason why I was able to even like have that birthday or like be reborn in that way was because I attended meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous for the 6 months prior, and didn't pick up a drink since like October 10th of last year. I first came into these rooms thinking that like really brought to my knees by like what do they call it, the lashes of alcoholism, and also just like the consequences of my decisions. Like I think I didn't have too much of a problem with the drinking thing. It was just everything else that came along with it that made my life like so unbearable. um, I have a sponsor. She knows she's my sponsor, and I am like terrified, but also really excited at the like future of taking other women through the book. But I'm still pretty early in my step work, and um, am really relieved at the opportunity to like do something carefully, rather than just like rushing into it for the sake of like doing it or because other people say that I should do it. I think um, thinking about what it was like, I mentioned didn't have a problem with, or my thinking doesn't have a problem with the way that I drank. It was just, all the things that came after I picked up a drink or like that led me up to a drink that made my life just something that I couldn't manage and couldn't bear anymore. Um, and I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about, where did this disease come from for me? I do come from a family of, it's like my dad's side is like super alcoholic and my mom's side is like super addictive. And they came together and they made me. And like sort of included in that is also all of the actions and the consequences that come with like whatever like physical allergy or like spiritual malady that like alcoholism and addiction is. Um, and so part of me wonders, and I spent a lot of time wondering, oh, was I just like born with it? Like, oh, did my drinking turn into it? I don't know, but I remembered this. Like, I've been so excited to tell this story to somebody that will understand it. So I think I've always thought like an alcoholic, and the memory that made me sort of realized that was, the game telephone in elementary school, and how you'd sit kind of in like a line or a circle like this and you'd have a message, and the goal was for a person to start out with a message and each person would whisper it into the other person's ear, and the goal was to get it all the way around the room and the message be intact. Well, that was too boring for me, so like even though I heard it perfectly well, somebody would say like, she sold seashells by the seashore. And then I'd go to the next person and I'd say, he stole bracelets at the department store. And then just because for me, like everybody else's experience of the game, like, and I thought about that, but like everybody else's experience of the game didn't matter to me so much as like, I just wanted to see everybody laugh at like how wrong the message was. And like, I didn't care if like anybody else wanted that out of the game. Um, but yeah, I don't know why. I was just thinking about that like for the last month, and I'm like, okay, that's giving alcoholic. I think I've always been an alcoholic. And so depending, I started drinking around like ninth grade or so. Up until that point, I had seen, the consequences of other people's use, and I had decided that that was gonna not gonna be something that I would do. That I would never pick up a drink. Um, but I don't know. Somewhere along the way in life, I just like, again, I don't know if I was born with this or if I picked it up, but I was just like so uncomfortable in my skin and so like uncomfortable around people, and I didn't know how to talk to people, and I didn't think that anybody liked me. And I also like dipped my chicken nuggets and like pudding for lunch, and I was like, why does nobody like me? Like, I'm such a normal person. Um and so somewhere, all of that to say is that somewhere along the way I just started I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't have like a lot of community, and so I moved around a lot as a kid. And so around ninth grade or so, I had this little group of friends that I was so happy to have. We had I was able to like live in the same place for like 3 years, which is a really long time. So these felt like my best friends ever, and I don't know how, because we're in high school. Somebody stole some like Mike's Hard or something like that, some like Mike's Hard lemonade, and uh, like everybody was super excited to drink, and it came my turn, and they're like, "Oh, Aja, like go ahead, like take a drink," and like just the opportunity to like be a part of like that fun and that excitement really just overrode every other like fear or everything else that I wanted for myself in terms of like sobriety and not going down the path of my parents. And that pattern kind of continued elsewhere. That's how I picked up drugs. That's how I got into a lot of like relationships and a lot of jobs and things like that. Like I would think and I would know that I wanted something for myself, but then somebody who I really liked and I really wanted in my life like offered me a thing. And I said, "Oh, okay. You're not gonna leave me? Okay, yeah, cool. I'll pick up this drink." And from there, it just like I once I picked up that first drink, I completely forgot what it felt like to like be the daughter of an alcoholic. And I was never one of those people who could like drink like a lady, or it was always just like blacking out and throwing up at parties from the beginning. Like there was no and if there wasn't, it meant that I was like thinking way too hard about it and I wasn't having any fun. But even throughout high school, people would like make fun of me for like acting a fool and like throwing up at these parties, and I'm just like, okay, so what you're trying to tell me is that you're mad at me because I'm having fun. um, and like there was just no register to me that like one that moderate like there was a thing as like moderating your drinking. I just thought that you drank as much as you could, and that's how everybody drank. Some people were like wimps and like couldn't drink as much as me, and like some people like were like badass and like knew how to have fun and drank like I did. And more or less I just like drank in that way, from the time I was like 14 up until the time I was like 26 or so. There was a few years, I won't talk too much about my like drug addictions, but what I will say is that like there were a couple like year-long periods sort of throughout high school where I knew like I started to become ashamed of my drinking, but didn't know how to like, I didn't think that like people would invite me to the party if I like didn't do something. So I was just like, okay, instead of like drinking, I'm just gonna like smoke weed, and like that became my whole thing for a while. And then I started like hearing voices on weed, and I was like, okay, well, like, what's gonna be my thing? I guess I'm going back to alcohol, and it literally never occurred to me that not putting a mind altering substance in my body was an option. Like, I just thought that that was something that every single person in the world had to do. It wasn't even like a rite of passage. I just thought that it was like, the same way that like people eat food, like people like drink booze and like do drugs. Like, it didn't, I don't even remember, like, it was like sometime like when I was in like college that I realized that like sobriety was like an actual thing. Like I knew that there were like people who like didn't have lives that were complete messes because of their drinking. Um, but I didn't know there were sober people. I didn't have like a word for that, just because of like the way that I grew up and like what my family was like. And I remember sometime maybe in like 10th or 11th grade, I started going to AA meetings with my uncle, because we we liked to like commiserate together. That was our thing. Um, the whole world had, the world was against us, and we had all this like anger, and like nobody understood the way that we felt, but like each other. And eventually he was like court ordered to go to AA. And so I would like go with him to these meetings. And it didn't occur to me that he was an alcoholic, he did drink like all the time and every day, but like I was like, whoa, you got court ordered to go to AA? Like, this was only like your fifth DUI. What are you talking about? Um, and so I'd go with them just to like hang out with my like buddy, right? And I'd like go with them, go to these meetings. And I remember being really struck by there's just like a certain like air in the rooms that like I was able to like see and feel when I was in high school and like drinking like crazy, but I didn't realize that I had a drinking problem. Um, and I remember thinking like, wow, this is a really cool and really special place. And I've never been in a room where so many people like think the things that I think. It's too bad I'm not an alcoholic. Otherwise, like I would get a lot from this program. Um, I would get a lot from these rooms. And somewhere along the lines, I stopped going with my uncle to these meetings, and my drinking continued. My life continued, and it was a very like it was always like a downward spiral. But I think like the like downward piece of it like got steeper and steeper and steeper as my like drinking progressed. Like for a while it was like all kind of fun and games, and then it'd be like embarrassing stories, and it's like, haha, I can't believe that I did that. And then it turned into like, oh my god, what did I do last night? Like, did I do anything like terrible? No, I didn't. You're lying to me, aren't you? But thank you, but I know that you're lying to me. And then I drink again, and then it turned into like drinking by myself, and like drinking at work and not showing up to work because I'm drunk and all these things. And so by oh wow, okay, I got a minute to talk about where I'm at. So yeah, in October I came to Cherry Hall. Really like fell in love with the rooms, and uh, thankfully had like really open ears, and was kind of like a sponge to the things that people were telling me. And like one of the first things that really stuck to me was the importance of service. And so for the first like 6 months, from like October through like April of this year, I was like pouring coffee at like half of the meetings that I'd go to, and like setting up and taking down tables. And I will say that the coffee pour experience specifically really cemented me in the rooms, because the person before me who poured coffee at this meeting like had the the cup, they had the fixings, and they'd go up around the room and go up to each and every person and say, hey, how are you doing? Do you want some coffee? I'm well, when I'm not going to share their name, but so I'd go up to every person, hey, like, good to see you again. You want some coffee? Here's your coffee. I go to a newcomer, hey, I'm Azia, welcome. Do you want some coffee? Here's some coffee. And so through that act of service, it like pushed me out of my comfort zone to be able to like interact with people instead of kind of like hiding in the corner of the room. And so not only that like interaction, but the service commitment gave me a reason to give me like a reason and a little bit of like an obligation to go back every week. And I'm just really grateful for, because like I didn't have like a pink cloud for a while, but there were just like certain things that got me to the next step. And I think that like that message of like service is important. It keeps you coming back. That kept me coming back to the point where I was able to like be around you guys enough to realize that like, oh, you're not all just like lying to me first to get my hopes up to like get me to drink and kill myself again. You know, like there's maybe the way that I've been like thinking about, you know, the rooms of AA and the way that I've been thinking about a lot of things is wrong. And maybe you guys are like actually being honest about the experiences that you're sharing with me. And then that realization led me to, you know, being able to relate to all of these different stories. Um, and I'm just super, you know, like what I'll say is that like a year after coming into the rooms and like 6 months, like completely sober, like I feel like a very different person. You know, when I came into the rooms, I didn't really care about, I just didn't want my, not, I didn't want my life to be like what it was like. I didn't even want to be alive, but like, I didn't know how to, I didn't know what to do. You know, I just knew that like drinking the way that I was drinking wasn't going to work. And like I heard that like this AA thing can like help people with their drinking, and as a result of like, you know, just like going to the AA thing one day at a time, and like taking a good amount, not all the advice, you know, like there's a lot of things that like I haven't done yet and I probably should, but even by taking maybe like anywhere between like 50 and 70% of the suggestions that were given to me, you know, my life is like completely transformed. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm not like screaming in terror at the day that's ahead of me, you know, like I'm excited. If like I'm happy to be alive, and sometimes I'm even excited for like the things that I get to do. Um, and like that's one of the things that I'm just trying to be most mindful of right now, is that like regardless of any sort of like like material or like relational things that like might come as a result of my 12 steps, like the thing that I'm just trying to remember is that like no matter how bad that it gets, like today, like at least today I didn't wake up wanting to die, and I'm like not ashamed of my actions yesterday, which is huge. And I will say, the last thing that I'll say is that like I know that it's possible to like not feel the way that I was feeling when I came into the rooms. um, and, you know, I might not feel fantastic every day, but I do know that there are better days, like as a result of like not putting a drink or a drug in my body and like staying connected to like the fellowship and also like creating a contact with my higher power. And so right now I'm going through a little bit of like a dark night of my soul kind of thing right now. But I'm just trying to like hold on to the fact that like, no, you've seen it get better this year. Like it might suck this week, but like just think about March. Like March was awesome, you know. So just like hold through. And I've never been able to like have that kind of like faith or hope in anything before, and I'm just super grateful for that. So thank you for my sobriety.
Thank you.